And there's Greg. Good morning, Greg. Welcome. We're just waiting for the last couple of folks to come on. Okay, well, I think we will go ahead and get started. Your time is valuable, and I truly appreciate you being willing to judge our contest. This is Ann Zimmerman, the person that's been barraging you with emails. So thank you all for being here this morning and for volunteering. So just kind of a housekeeping piece with doing the GoToMeeting. If you are online and you have a microphone and you would like to mute your microphone during most of the session, that'll be great. That way we won't have any feedback. But please, at any time, break in, ask a question, send us a message in the chat box. We want to make sure we address any questions as we go along. But so just in case you aren't familiar with the STEM Alliance, the KC STEM Alliance is in its 5th year as an organization, and our mission is to inspire more young people to pursue careers in STEM. So we support a variety of STEM initiatives in Kansas City, including Project Lead the Way, which is an in-school curriculum, and then First Robotics, which is an after-school curriculum, and then a number of other initiatives around girls in STEM, girls in coding, trying to reach some underserved populations. And so this particular competition started 2 years ago. We piloted it with the engineering program. And so the students that are competing in this, in either the engineering design competition or our biomedical research and design competition, these students have all completed at least 4 years of Project Lead the Way coursework in either the engineering pathway or biomedical sciences pathway. So both of those pathways culminate in a senior capstone course where the students do a major project. For the engineering students, it's a year-long design project, and for the biomedical science students, they have a little bit more flexibility. Many of them do an experimental design project, but some of them also do a more sort of traditional design project. In either case, the students are solving a problem. And so very similar to doing a science fair project, the contest is designed to recognize students who go through that process in an exemplary fashion. So that has always been, as you know, kind of it's hard to do a judging of a science fair because you've got to pull people down on a particular day and have them judge projects. So this technology, the innovation portal, was developed with an NSF grant, and Project Lead the Way was part of the development of a rubric which was originally designed to be used to assess the engineering design process, and then that rubric was embedded in an online technology that allows students to upload their work into an electronic portfolio and then connect that portfolio to other judges, or to judges externally anywhere in the world, quite honestly, to be able to look at their work and evaluate it. So this technology, which Elliot will go into a little bit, but we were not going to get bogged down in the detail. Basically, it just became an enabling technology for us to do a competition and engage professionals as judges. So we did this 2 years ago in engineering, or last year in engineering. This year we are adding the Biomed Research and Design Contest, and we will ask the Biomed judges to stay on the call for just a few minutes afterwards to talk about how we are adapting the design rubric to be used for the Biomed contest, and a few caveats about that, but I won't go into that detail right now. So just a few comments about the timeline. The students are feverishly finishing up their projects this week, and they will be submitting them to me on the 31st. And then once I have all of the projects submitted, I will, the beauty of the innovation portal is that it will automatically assign projects to all of the judges that I have connected to the contest. I appreciate everybody's patience with kind of going back and forth on the, it's kind of a two-step process to get you on board as a judge. But if you judge again next year, it will be very easy because it'll just be one email to get you back connected to the a new contest. So at any rate, you will have, on April 1st, you should receive an email that tells you that your projects are assigned, and you'll have from April 1st to April 15th to review your projects during that window. And again, we'll kind of go into all that detail today. But the winners will then be announced on April 19th at our senior showcase. And I will be sending everyone an invitation to attend the showcase if you would like. It's certainly not a requirement at all of being a judge, but if you're curious to come and see some of the projects in person and meet the students, it's a really fun morning, and we will be announcing the students at the end of that showcase, that the students that have won the competitions. Because most of my judges have said they're always curious to know who won the contest, I will be sending out a link so that you can, if you are curious to see what the winning entries were, that you can go in and see what those projects were. The only problem with doing this online and remotely is that you will only get to see the 3 projects that you review, and so it doesn't give you the larger context of all of the projects, but so that's just kind of nice to see who the winners might be. And then the last piece is that, before I turn this over to Elliot, is that we are very interested in your feedback, especially the biomed judges, and so following the judging cycle, you will be receiving another email from me with a link to a survey that's being conducted by Gail Goldberg, who is the woman who actually was the lead researcher in developing the rubric. So we're just curious to see how the process, how you experience the process from your perspective as a judge, so that we can continue to advise Project Lead the Way and how they can improve. So I think with that, I will introduce Elliot Mork, who works with Project Lead the Way and is the, as I call him, my Wizard of Oz, because he's the man behind the innovation portal screen. So I will go ahead and mute my audio and turn it over to Elliot. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne. I want to check 2 things before I get going. The first is that I successfully unmuted myself, and the second is that you found the chat box. So if you could, if you hear my voice, go ahead and say hi in the chat box. That's a great place for any questions that occur during the presentation. I'll stop periodically for questions, and we can talk through them. But if you also want to, we can put it in the chat box, and we can address that question. So good. I unmuted myself. Great. My name is Elliot Mork. I work with Project Lead the Way at the national office here in Indianapolis. I work in the development office, and most of my work revolves around connecting business and industry to Project Lead the Way classrooms in ways that create value for all the parties involved. As part of that, I manage the innovation portal, and so I want to show you today what the innovation portal is, and then how you will be utilizing it as a judge today. I am recording this session, and so if you want to look back at anything, just know that the recording will be made available. It takes me a few hours to process the video and then upload to YouTube, and then Anna can send that link out to you. So let's go ahead and get going. There's a couple steps to get connected to a competition on the innovation portal. The first 2, making sure your browser is up to date and creating an innovation portal account and getting it connected to the competition. I think most of you have already done. Anne informed me that most of y'all are already registered as judges in the competition. If you are not, we can make sure that happens on this call today. It involves creating an innovation portal account and then accepting an invitation from Anne to actually get into that Kansas City competition. The third thing is an overview of how an online system works, just generally how the innovation portal works. The next thing we'll cover is how to access the portfolios that were assigned to you, and that will happen once Anne has all the student submissions and then sends them out to you to actually be reviewed. I'm going to talk a little bit about the rubric that you'll be using to evaluate student portfolios. It's a pretty good defined rubric, and you'll be able to calibrate your own perception and align align your evaluation work to a pretty standardized rubric with a lot of resources. I'll show you how to access the rubric, and then accessing scored examples that are built into the rubric, so you can see other student work that other judges have evaluated for that certain score on the rubric, so you can help calibrate yourself to that point. And then I'll show you how to submit your scores to Anne, and then all judging is due April 15th. And you're going to be receiving the portfolios, I think, April 1st, sometime during the day when Anne gets all those portfolios compiled, and then you'll have 14 days to actually evaluate those, and then judging was due on the 15th so that Anne can get them all together and make the final prizes and get all the plaques ordered, and I think she's announcing on the 19th. If you have any questions about the Innovation Portal and need support, my email is listed right there, emork@pltw.org. You can either send it to me or Anne if you need any help on the Innovation Portal. So the first two steps, most of you have done this already, so I'll cover this pretty quickly. The steps to register into a competition as a judge is first create an account on the Innovation Portal. There's no separate judge account. Every account is exactly the same on the Innovation Portal. You just get assigned roles within that account. And so that sometimes causes confusion because there's no judge account. It's just an Innovation Portal account. Once you register on the Innovation Portal, you need to send the email address that you used to register to Anne, and then she can push out an invitation to you to get connected to that competition. You'll be on the lookout for an invitation. Both should be sent to your email. So you should get that in your email inbox. Sometimes emails get caught up in the spam filter, and so you might need to look there for it, especially if you work for a company that has some pretty tight filtering rules. So you'll find the invitation. It's both on the Innovation Portal if you log in under notifications or pushed as an email. Once you accept that invitation, you'll be connected to that competition, whether you're judging the engineering design competition or the biomed competition. We want to get you connected before April 1st so that Anne knows the full amount of judges that she has to assign portfolios to when student portfolios get submitted. So a little bit about the Innovation Portal as a competition tool. Students and student teams are working right now to actually build their portfolios. The steps that they go through is first register with Anne in that competition. All students can register way before they actually have their portfolio built. So most students should have already registered and registered their interest in the competition so that then Anne can send out reminders to them and check to see who has registered so she knows about how many judges to recruit. After that registration phase, we move into a submission phase where students have a window to actually submit their portfolio to a competition. That window, we're in that window right now. Students have had from March 14th to 31st. And so when students submit on the 31st, that's their deadline, then you'll receive the portfolios on the 1st, April 1st. And we're in that phase right now where students can submit portfolios. So students submit those portfolios to the competition, this bucket over here on the Innovation Portal, which is a competition, and there can be anywhere from dozens to hundreds of these submissions from students, depending on the size of the competition, which are now in this bucket relevant to the Kansas City, either engineering or biomed, or being run parallel as separate competitions. So then on April 1st, the competition administrator, which is Anne, takes all those portfolios and then decides to assign each judge some portfolios to review. You'll be receiving somewhere between 3 and 5 submissions to review, and that is done through a random algorithm from if Anne knows how many judges she has and how many portfolios she has to evaluate and knows the number of times she wants each portfolio evaluated, it automatically distributes those out to judges in a random fashion. So she assigns all those portfolios out, and then Anne is the key point of contact for any questions that the judges have with communication going back and forth with the pool of judges and the students if they have any issues submitting. You have that 2-week window until April 15th to evaluate those submissions as the judge, and then you send scores back to Anne, to the competition administrator, and then she uses that to rank the portfolios in a score, top score to low score. So Innovation Portal, from the user perspective, we'll go through that real quick. any person can create a portfolio. Even you as a judge can create a portfolio if you'd like to on the innovation portal. You don't have any pre-built ones, but that is the main functionality of the innovation portal, is actually building a portfolio, which is to display design work that has occurred in a laid out in a way that is evaluated by the rubric the innovation portal is built upon. Any user can invite project partners in to view their portfolios, or collaborate on the portfolio, or co-own a portfolio. And they can invite one person or many people as they work on a project. They can also invite their teacher. Normally what we have teachers do is have their students invite them to view a portfolio, so they can see the work that the students are doing, but the teacher doesn't really need to edit anything, so the teacher is normally invited as a viewer. They can also send reviews out to either the teacher or project mentors that are involved in a group since the beginning, or whenever they meet each other, or even prior. Students can ask another person with an innovation portal account to do a review completely independent of a competition, but just as a baseline evaluation. Where do you think I'm at? What score do you think I will get? So once students have this portfolio built and they've worked with their project partners and their teachers, and possibly have a project mentor in their portfolio giving them feedback on it, they can take that portfolio and submit it to a competition or any opportunity out there. We say opportunity because sometimes competitions are more of an internship program instead of a competition, and so we say opportunity instead of purely competitions, even though about 90% of the opportunities are competitions on the innovation portal. What's really neat about the innovation portal is that students can submit to multiple competitions, not only just one. Because of a standardized rubric and structure to it, they can submit to several competitions. We have at least one national competition that's actually just ending right now, but if students had their portfolio done beforehand, they could submit it to that international competition actually, and then submit also to a Kansas City competition if they are eligible to submit to the Kansas City competition. And you can create many portfolios on the innovation portal, not only just one person can be connected to any number of portfolios in any of those roles, whether it be an owner, a viewer, or a reviewer, or a collaborator. So at this point, I want to jump over to the actual innovation portal and show you a few things. But before I get going there, I want to stop to see if there's any questions overall about the innovation portal. All right, I'll move on. So this is an account I use for judge training. This is a judge in a competition. The first screen you log into is there's a navigation bar on the left-hand side of the innovation portal. The first screen you'll automatically go to is My Portfolios, because the innovation portal assumes if you made an account, you would like to actually make a portfolio. I have 46 portfolios on here. You will have 0 on your account unless you make one. So it will look a little bit different from you. It'll say that you have no portfolios. You can create a new one. I have all these, but you won't. The first thing I'd like to do is call your attention over here to notifications. My notifications. These are invitations and notifications from competitions that you have been assigned to be a judge, and you've had reviews assigned to you. And so this account, I can see that I have been assigned to review a certain portfolio for a certain opportunity. You can see all of your invitations in this window here, My Notifications. The next step I want to show you is the opportunities. These are where all the competitions actually live. We have 2 tabs, the current competitions and past competitions. Right now, the Kansas City area engineering design competition and the biomed research and design competition are hosted in this current folder. That's because right now students are actively submitting their work to the competition. And as you can see, there's quite a few opportunities posted. I think the next one to actually be reviewed is the next one to be up is the Kansas City, which is why that's up here. But we have several other competitions that are currently active right now. You will not see Kansas City area design. You will not see either of these competitions in this current folder once you actually go into to judge, because it'll be once the students have submitted and that deadline has passed and you have the ability to do the reviews, it will move to past. So we're going to look for the exact same competition names, but over in past, once you're actually in here to do the review. We can see that the 2015 Kansas City Engineering Design Competition is here. That's from last year, and you'll be looking for something like this, except 2016. One thing I'll do to assist all the judges is once the 2016 competitions move over here to past, this 2015 will disappear. So you'll only see the 2016 competitions. For a training example, I will click into here just because this is the one I use to show judges exactly what to do. So this is a competition, an overview page. It has the registration open and close, as well as the submission open and close, who it's open to, and then all the descriptors that the competition administrator has given me to upload to describe what their portfolio, what their competition will be all about. So as a judge, we have this blue bar up here on the top. That lets you know that you are actually connected as a judge. So if you go into the 2016 competition that you're in right now, you'll see this blue bar. You just won't have any reviews. So that's a good way to check to make sure that you've actually been assigned to be a judge in the competition. So the thing we want to do is click review here, and then we go into a page that shows all of the submissions that you've been assigned. It'll say your name, and then it'll say how many reviews that you have and how many you've completed. Right now on this account, I've completed 4 reviews, and I have 11 assigned to me. You will have somewhere between 3 and 5 portfolios assigned to you when you're doing this evaluation, so you won't have quite as many as I have 11. It does take, we've heard back from judges and on the average time that it takes to do a evaluation of a portfolio, and what we've heard is that it takes about an hour to do the first one, maybe just over an hour to do the first portfolio evaluation, and then any evaluations after that take a little bit less than an hour. So 3 to 5 portfolios roughly translates to 3 to 5 hours worth of time. So we can see the status of each of these portfolios, the reviews that we're doing. So I have this lawnmower Kickstarter portfolio I've already completed. I completed that in a prior training. I also completed the iPhone screen and the check engineering light. So what I'm going to do is go into one that's active, one that is not complete, and I'm going to go into this Avon Engineering portfolio, and we'll be able to see this student work and do a review. So this is a portfolio, a submission of a portfolio. What we have here, what we're looking at is, I like to think of it as a 3-ring binder with a cover sheet. So on the right-hand side, we see all of the tabs that are there in a 3-ring binder, and those are those letters over here, the A through N. And these are the tabs on a 3-ring binder. The page that opens on is the portfolio cover page, which is like that front insert. And in a 3-ring binder, we don't have any grade associated with that portfolio cover page, but we do have some content. Just, this is my team name, kind of information. So there's nothing to actually evaluate on this portfolio cover page, and so we're going to go into element A by highlighting A and then clicking it on the right-hand side. So what we have loaded now is actual student work that was done for this portfolio evaluation. Yours will be different because everyone's going to be evaluating different portfolios. You have a few resources available to you to actually evaluate the content within here, which is a structured rubric on this right-hand side. So element A is a presentation and justification of the problem. So in this element, we have some tools available to you to actually evaluate the work that students have done. The first thing I'd like to start with is the questions. The questions on the right-hand side. So this is, I think of this as a checklist for students, but more of a guiding questions for judges. So students have full access to all of this in the innovation portal. They know exactly what you're going to be looking at to evaluate their portfolio. So I tell students that it's phrased, did you offer the reviewers of this portfolio a clear and concise problem statement that offers cause and effect phrasing that includes some level of data and statistics about the severity of the problem? So that's a check. They can say, yes, I've done that, or no, I haven't. For you, it kind of gives you guidance on the topics that is going to be evaluated for this element. So you can read through those and learn about element A. Once I close that, we can look at the actual scoring that is available to you as judges. We have descriptors like a rubric does. So we have a description of what it takes to get a 5 for the content of this portfolio. What does it take to get a 4? What does it take to get a 3? And what does it take to get a 2, a 1, and then a 0? If you see no content, we've had it happen once, a couple times, but there's just nothing, no content loaded on the actual page, then that would mean they receive a score of 0. And please do submit a score of 0. On this rubric, I think Anne mentioned it that Dr. Goldberg will be reaching out to get your feedback on this rubric. It was developed through a multi-year NSF grant to actually develop the language of this rubric that's pretty well accepted among higher education engineering professionals to evaluate design work. And what they really spend a lot of time doing is making sure this language, it's a stair step from 0 to 1 in score, from 0 to 1 to 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, and 4 to 5. So that's a pretty even stair step. But also what they said is, even though it's an even stair step, it's a best fit stair step. And so the language described in 4, you don't need all of that to match up exactly to receive a 4. If it's better, if what students have provided you is maybe between a 3 or a 4, what your job as a reviewer is to decide what it more closely fits. So you don't always round down to the 3, but you choose the descriptors between description between a 3 and a 4 to decide what does it best fit into. So it's a staircase that's kind of smooth. So that's pretty neat. The rubric, very, very well defined rubric for each stair step on the ranking from 0 to 5. What you also have available to you, and what's pretty neat, is a document. Oh, I'm going to do that again just to show you. You have a document down here with a scored example. So this is actual student work that's been evaluated by dozens of professionals that work in engineering education, and common agreement has come that this student work deserves a score of 3 and is a very good example of what should be rated as a score of 3. And so there's a PDF file that shows that student work and describes exactly why it got a score of 3. And so what I want you to watch, what I want you to watch as I click this is in the upper left. You may have already seen it before, but should open up another tab for you. And it might go directly to that tab, or you might have to click over in another tab. It opens another window for you. And so we see a PDF file. The first thing we have is a description from those dozens of education professionals that have come to consensus that this portfolio deserves a score of 3. And what we have here is their commentary on why. A really good tool for judges and evaluators to know exactly why this is a 3, and all the thoughts that went in behind that. So that's the first step. First thing you have is that description. The second thing you have is the entire rubric in a short format, and then a highlight of the actual element that this sheet is relevant for. You have the full rubric for the element, so this is element A, and you have the entire text that we were looking at earlier available to you, and then the highlight of the actual score that is associated with this element. And then if you scroll down, you have actual student work. So this is student work that was actually submitted and ranked as a score of 3. And you can read through this to kind of get your baseline for what a 3 should be. You can see actual student work, you can see the score, and you can see the commentary on why it was scored such. So you can look through actual student work. This one's actually pretty neat. The students working on this portfolio had a problem where their city had replaced incandescent light bulbs, street light bulbs, with LED light bulbs to save energy. That's great because the city saves tons of money on electricity. The only problem is in northern climates you can have snow build up on those bulbs, and then the city was actually spending more money sending out crews to clean those up so drivers can actually see the lights. So that waste energy, that heat, was actually melting the snow and then actually using that heat. And so this was a problem that they were looking at in this portfolio. You'll see a lot of interesting things that students come up with and problems that are going to be evaluated through this engineering design process. So that's all the student work. I want to click over now back to the actual portfolio and then continue our work here with element A. So this is all just on element A. We can look at all the student data. We can scroll down to look through all of the content that students have loaded for A. And there can be images, there can be videos, there can be a bunch of different content loaded in here. When we click this 3, this is not a score that we're actually assigning. And so the next thing I want to do is show you and use the science fair analogy. I want to show you that clipboard where you will actually be writing down your scores and commentary and submitting it based on this portfolio. But before I go there, I want to pause, see if there's any questions on the actual rubric.
I might make one quick comment, and that is for the biomed folks, we did do, and we'll talk about this a little bit more at the end, but most of these examples are engineering examples, but there are some that are actually sort of a biomed application, to be honest. So I apologize, we're still working on trying to get some more biomedical types of examples in here, but I think when you look at it, you'll kind of see that they are it's really the design process, whether it be engineering design or experimental design. It's the same sort of approach, but we can have some more conversation about that after we're finished.
Yeah, and I just realized for biomed, we will not, for all of the competition, we're not evaluating M and N, is that correct?
Actually, yes, that's correct.
Okay. All right. So no matter which one you're evaluating, you will not be submitting a score for the elements either M or N, and you will not have a score sheet associated with it. So then I can show you that score sheet and then show you what you're missing, what you will be missing for M and N. But let's go back to A. So this is all a reference guide for you. The rubric on the right-hand side, the score and the reflective questions, and the scored element examples. If you click into the portfolio content, you'll see on the bottom right-hand side there's a little pen icon. This is actually your clipboard with your score sheets that you'll be submitting. So if you click that, we bring up that clipboard page where you'll actually be submitting your scores. And we had a question in the chat box, Anne, how do I know whether I'm signed up for engineering or biomedical?
Let's see. Raisa? I'll respond to.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is our score sheet where we actually put the score that we think this actual student work deserves. So maybe we looked at this we looked at this a lot, and we think it kind of falls between either a 3 or a 4, somewhere in there. Another resource that we have is we're able to click this plus button and bring up the rubric again, and we can toggle between the 3 and the 4 as we have our score sheet open. We can go 3, read through that. Does it fit a 3, or maybe go to 4? Does it fit a 4? So we can use this. It becomes a little bit of an exercise in screen real estate because you half of it is that clipboard and half of it is the student work, and then we have this box floating. So if we're done with that, we can go ahead and close that if we want to. So right now we have a score of 3 selected, and because we decided that was the best fit, and then we can go into the comment and we can write an element as well. We can write a comment as well. So we can put any comment that we want there. And then at this point, I also want to tell you that there's no save button anywhere on the screen because the innovation portal is constantly saving every few microseconds, and so there's no need to actually save your work ever because it's constantly always being saved. Just wanted to let you know that. We've had judges ask us where the save button is, and it's all being saved automatically, and so there is no actual save button. Once we're done with element A, we can close our score sheet with this blue arrow down, close panel, and it shrinks back down in here to this pen. If we ever want to go back to it, we can click that again and open it up, and we have our score of 3, and we have our comment. We can close that again. So once we've done A, we need to go to B. We hover over it and then click again. We load up different student content. We can look at the rubric on the right-hand side. We can look at a different scored element example for different scores all the way down from 0 to 5. And then we can open up our clipboard with that pen icon, and we can submit a score of whatever score we think B should get. So maybe B was a little bit better, and we think it should be a 4. We can write another comment. And again, everything saves automatically. We can close that down. So what we'll be doing is for each of these elements that'll be scored, we'll have that pen icon and load a score into it. For your competition, you will not have a pen icon for M or N. Because those will not be scored for the Kansas City competitions. So don't let yourself get too confused if you load M and you see no pen icon here. And as we click here, we know that there's no pen icon there, but if we click L, there will be a pen icon. So if there's no pen icon, that means that it won't be scored. So once we've gone through all of these elements that will be scored, we can click this complete review button up here. And what this does is it's like the Amazon shopping cart. It says, "Are you sure?" And here's what you've done. And then, "Are you sure? Do you want to submit it?" And so for element A, we can look at, we put a score of 3. So we can verify that it's a 3. And we can see the actual comment that we wrote for element A. Same for B, except we have a score of 4 and we have a different comment here. If there's no comment, it'll say there are no comments for elements for this review. If we'd never submitted a score, will be a question mark. And so for each element that you can evaluate, you should have a score in there, even if it's a 0. But you will have a question mark for elements M and N because you will never be able to submit a score for those 2 elements because it is not being evaluated. So we have our last chance to review all the scores, making sure we have all the scores loaded that we want loaded here. Once we submit it, it's final. So what I like to say here is we have our score sheets, and then what we're doing with the score sheets is putting them in an envelope. We put a stamp on it, and that's this button right here. So I understand and wish to complete this review. It means that you'll not be able to edit anything once you submit it. You'll be able to see what you evaluated, but you won't actually be able to do to change any scores. And the reason we built that into the innovation portal is because Anne needs one final score that doesn't change, and so she knows after April 15th all the scores are set, and that she can use those scores to actually assign first place, second place, third place scores. So this checkbox is putting the stamp on our envelope with the score sheets, and then once we click complete review, that's dropping it in a mailbox and we can't get it back, sending it to Anne. So once we've clicked that, should load pretty quickly, and we're dropped back into our reviews. So you have this other navigation bar that says my reviews. These are all the reviews that you have completed or are assigned to complete on the innovation portal, regardless of the competition. And so I have quite a few here on this account because I use it for training. But we have 13 of 13, and you can filter by active or complete. So this is a good dashboard for you to know, have I completed all my reviews? Are there any active submissions I should be reviewing? Let's see, so complete. So we just did AVE Engineering. So this one is labeled now as complete. This is the review we just did. If we click back into that, we can see the content that the students loaded, the cover page and element A, all the same content, but we don't have a pen icon anymore. We can't actually change that score. What we can do is click Review Summary and see the score that we actually submitted, but we cannot change the comment or we cannot change the score. So you can look back and see what you did, but you can't actually change it. So then also one thing I want to show you, back in Opportunities, current and past, and remember we're going to be clicking past. We're not actually going to find the Kansas City competition here on current once the students have submitted and you've been assigned a review. We're going to go to past. We're going to look for Kansas City, but in this case I'm going to click training example. And then I think we had 3 of 11 reviews done prior, and we should have 4 of 11 done now. Oh, 5. We had 4, and we moved to 5 out of 11. So we still have those 11 submissions assigned to us in this competition, but we've completed 5, and we can verify once this number is 11 out of 11, or for your case, it'll be 3 or 5. somewhere between 3 and 5 out of somewhere between 3 and 5. And even engineering, we can check that it is complete, and we're done. And so we've submitted that one. You'll need to go through any, you need to go through all of those to actually do that, and then you should be good to go for your judging experience, and that all those scores will be sent off to Anne. The last thing I want to mention to you is that I think you've received 2 of these documents already, but these are the documents you'll have at your fingertips as you are judging. You'll have a step-by-step guide, and this is focused on how to get an account and how to access those submissions, how to actually get access to them. And then you have an overview of the rubric, which is just the reflective questions and element A. I'm sorry, not each element, but score of 5, what it takes to get a 5, and then those reflective questions. And then what I don't think you have not received yet is a full, complete rubric in a printout. So you can either, if you have 2 screens, you can use this one instead of toggling back and forth. This is the full rubric. You can either print that out and have it separate, put on a different screen, or just use the Innovation Portal as is. But that can come out in another email along with this recording that Anne will send out. So are there any questions? We have a question, Anne. Are there any expectations on the students' part regarding comments for each section?
So no. However, I will say, so we've struggled with this a little bit each year, and I think the goal, well, we just did it last year, but so the goal on our end is to provide the feedback to the teachers and then let the teachers decide how to share that with the students. But I think I think the goal in those comment sections is if you have something specific that you think would have really enhanced that particular section, please add a few comments briefly. Where it might actually come in handy is for me on my end. That last year I had a couple of submissions that were kind of really close, and or I had some variability in my judging, and so there are some times that I looked kind of specifically at what the judge said about a project to help me sort of think about where the ranking how it might affect the ranking. So there's not an expectation, but I think it is nice if you have time to write a few comments in there. That would be great. Any other questions? Okay.
All right. I think that concludes my part of the training. Anne, if I missed anything, or if you want to do any questions, I know you wanted to speak with BioMed folks afterwards as well.
Right. Yeah. So if you are helping us with the BioMed contest, please stay on board. Everybody else, I thank you so much again for participating in the training. And as Elliot mentioned, once he has this particular session all finished and ready for me to send you the link, I will send that out with the rubric. And then on April 1st, I'll send out a reminder. Actually, you'll get an email from the Innovation Portal letting you know that your projects are ready for you to review. But I will probably also send just a few reminders about the contest and another thank you, because I really do appreciate your time. And at this point, I am thinking, based on the number of students that I have registered and the number of judges, that you shouldn't have to do, it's hopefully just going to be 3 portfolios, but maybe 4. So I don't think anybody will have to do 5 at this point. But I fully anticipate getting a rush of submissions within 15 minutes of the closure of my of my submission window. So, but there's some really, really neat projects. So I'm very excited to see them come in, and then please feel free to contact me at any time if you have any questions or run into problems. So thank you all. And if you if you are doing the engineering contest, you're welcome to go ahead and sign off. And then biomed folks, if you can stay on, that would be super. Okay, let's see. I think everybody, well, they're still clicking out. So I just wanted to make a couple of specific comments for our biomed folks, because this is the first time that we are doing this with the biomed, and it was upon the request really of our biomed teachers. So last year we did the engineering as a kind of a test and to see how it worked with the portal. We thought it works really well, so we're very excited about that, but we wanted to have some very focused conversations with our teachers, and we're actually very fortunate in Kansas City to have some of the teachers that actually wrote the biomed curriculum for Project Lead the Way, or were part of that team. So we met with Peggy Hinsman at Lee Summit and talked kind of extensively about whether or not we felt like this still would lend itself to the experimental design process. And Peggy spent some time looking through it, and ideally we would have loved to have tweaked the rubric and have a little bit more customized rubric inside the innovation portal that we could use for the biomed contest. But the sort of the reality is that this rubric, the way it was designed, has the validity testing and the scrutiny that we would want to use to be for the contest. So what we're suggesting to our biomed coaches is that as you look at, if you run across language that feels kind of engineering focused, is to just sort of insert the word experimental in front of design. But the reality is that the way the students are going through the scientific research method is very consistent with the engineering design method, and so we think that it will still work, but we really do want your feedback on, as a judge, whether or not the rubric felt confusing to you at all. And the teachers have spent some time talking with the students. They know that this is the first time that they've done it, and so we're just being very open about wanting as much feedback as we can get. And really the only element that is a little bit confusing is element G, which is construction of a testable prototype. And what has happened is that some students have actually developed something. They've developed a product, like a modification to a wheelchair, or I don't even have all of the projects in front of me. So there are a handful of the projects that actually may have constructed a prototype and or outlined what their experiment looks like here. There's sort of a couple of different elements that they could have done that in. And so some students, most of the students will probably have something in this section. But what we're concerned about is we don't want to actually, I'm blanking on the word. If somebody was confused by this particular section or element, we don't want that to work against them. So we have decided to omit the scoring for element G, which is the construction of the prototype. There will probably, the students will still be submitting material in that section, but we're not going to score it, just to make sure that we have sort of apples to apples in the scoring at the end. Because I don't want somebody who didn't understand how to apply that, or it just didn't work for their experiment. I don't want that to work against them in the scoring. Does that make sense to everybody? Are there any questions about that? As you go through as a judge, there won't even be, they will actually block the judging component of that section, and so you won't submit any scores for that. And then I think what I'm planning on doing is, as I see how the scores play out across the board, if I have if some of the students that have designed actually designed a product. If they fall out in the top 2 or 3, I may go ahead and ask a couple of judges to score that section if I end up needing sort of a tiebreaker or something between a couple of projects. But I think at least this year we're going to try this and see how that works. Are there any questions or concerns? I'm really, like I said, this is the first time, so we'll see how it goes, but I really would appreciate any thoughts that you might have about the process.
Hi, Anne. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, this is Mark Whistle. I had a question on, using the portal as it was really for engineering projects. Have you considered if the scoring comes out that those students that actually made a product are all near the top, of asking whether maybe there was a bias in the in the approach where that kind of a project would get a higher score because the rubrics were written in that way?
I think that's a great question, and and to be honest, since I don't really know how it will play out, I think that is one of the things I'm very open to, kind of going back and asking a couple of judges to see if it looks like that's kind of what's happening. So, and quite honestly, I will probably reach out to Peggy Hinsman, who is our biomed teacher, and I know you've worked with Peggy, to kind of get her feel for it, because she has students that are doing both. Some that are doing a project, and others that are doing experimental design. And so I think she might have kind of a good reflection on that. And quite honestly, if you are interested in being a late reviewer, I'd love to have your feedback.
Yeah. If I can help, I mean, you'll get to kind of look at the data and see what it's telling you. But if there's some way I could help, let me know.
Awesome. Thank you. Any other thoughts or comments or? Okay, well, thank you so much, and thank you. I know some of you helped recruit some other folks for me. At this point, it looks like we're going to have around